This is the Nope one.
The Nope one.
Hello and welcome back to ParaNormality. My name, as always, is Harry, and I am joined by my fantastic co-host, James. How you doing, James?
Good evening, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like whenever I press the record button, in my mind, I automatically go to my radio voice. I feel very much... I've got like an on switch for my radio voice.
To be fair, every time we're off the thing, it's always like, "Hey, James." So
I know. I'm channeling my inner partridge.
People don't know your scouts. It's crazy.
No, they don't. I do a really, really good job of hiding it. So we have a pretty exciting episode. It's one that as soon as I watched the film we're going to discuss, I messaged you, James, and was like, we need to talk about UFOs again, please.
We do.
It was literally as the credits were rolling. So we are going to be talking about Jordan Peele's incredible film, Nope. Before we do that, you know what I've got to do, James, I've got to do the spiel.
The spiel.
So the social spiel. So before we kick off and start spoiling the film, please do give us a like on your social media of choice. We're on Facebook. We are ParaNormality Podcast. We are on Twitter at PodNormality. And we are on TikTok. And I'm actually uploading TikToks at a pretty rapid rate at the moment.
Yep.
Not doing much for the old engagement, but it is, like I was saying to you, it is quite fun to take little chunks of the episode and find the little clips. And I do spend... That's good fun. I enjoy it.
You need to release for me to, doing the floss with an alien head on. You haven't released that one yet.
I will do that at one point. I'll get an alien mask and I'll do all the hashtag trendings. Do follow us on your social media of choice. We will probably look at getting an Instagram if I really want to go full Steve Buscemi.
Kind of their fellow kids.
Yeah, I don't think I'm full Buscemi yet, but I might go full Buscemi soon.
I did start a Bebo page, but that's got no engagement. So
no, I did the same. We've only got one friend, and it's MySpace Tom. Follow us on the socials, and then if you do enjoy the show, 5-star reviews or sharing the podcast with someone really massively helps. Let's crack on then, I guess. Shall we? Do you want to? I'll tell you what, James. Do you want to introduce the film in your own sort of like maybe 3-sentence blurb?
Ooh, okay.
What is Nope for you? Describe Nope to a layman.
I think Nope is a historically huge event in the world of media and the association with UAPs, UFOs. And it's turned the entire topic on its head. And it's just, rather than it being like a world-saving event, it's just a tiny little event that I feel like all the people that watch it who are fellow UAP enthusiasts agree it's just finding evidence. That's all they want is just to get a photo of it. It's not saving the planet. And for me, that is just a beautiful thing because it's so simple and you don't need Jeff Goldblum to save the day.
I like that. And there's also no scene where they go into the craft and miraculously it has a USB drive either. That doesn't exist in Nope.
That's very true. No,
because they use coax leads in Nope.
Of course.
So I thought what we'd do, if you haven't watched Nope, then I would suggest pausing this podcast immediately, going to your local Blockbuster 20 years ago,
damn right,
asking them to rent Nope, and they say, sorry, I don't know what Nope is. It's 2003. What are you talking about?
Yeah, we're going to
and then wait 20 years and then stream it online like a normal person. But go and watch Nope because it is absolutely fantastic.
It really is.
Jordan Peele, anyway, is an absolutely incredible director and producer. But this film really, for me, is the closest that I can come to when I look at UAP and UFO media to think that's what I think. It's the Leonardo DiCaprio meme in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood when he points at the screen like that there. And I remember watching it with my partner and being sort of a bit in awe at how well presented the entire film was.
Yeah, I went to cinema to watch it with my partner and we spoke about it for like 4 days afterwards. It sticks with you. Like,
one thing I will say is that my missus did burst out laughing at the end. I will describe why. It was a moment where I had to sort of like pause the film and let her get the giggles out because she wasn't really massively paying attention.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then the end bit is very different to the start bit. And we'll talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, it's a movie you have to pay attention from second one to the last second.
You do have to pay attention the entire time. So she went from sort of like not really paying attention like halfway through the film and sort of like glancing up every now and again to seeing the final result of it. And it took her a bit by surprise. If you don't want to have anything spoiled about Nope, go and watch it now. Come back to us. I would suggest anyone that is interested in UAPs has probably already seen this film. If they haven't, go immediately. We'll wait. We'll wait for you and then come back. So that's the overview. I want to start by saying this is the best UFO film ever made. Like you brought up, James, when you think of every other UFO film, whether that be Close Encounters, Signs, Independence Day, The New Independence Day, The Day the Earth Stood Still, War of the Worlds, whenever you think of these UFO films, it's always... Arrival is a great UFO film as well. Contact as well is a great UFO film. And whenever you think of these films, they are always something huge is going to happen and the world is going to blow up and they have to solve the alien crisis.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise has to run very fast and save the day, or Jeff Goldblum has to plug his laptop into a mothership, or they have to play the keyboard to the UFO. There's always it's a big thing. It's a big deal. The military are all involved. And in Nope, they just want to take a picture of a UFO. That is what the film is about.
I know.
They don't want to save the day. They don't want to save humanity from oblivion. They want to be on Oprah. They want to take the
Oprah
picture.
Moment.
Yeah, they want the Oprah moment. They want to take a picture of a UFO and be like, there you go, guys.
Yeah.
Boom.
The ultimate proof, isn't it? The impossible shot, I think they call it in the movie. Yeah, and like you said, in every other movie, it's military. Even with Alien, Alien, which is predominantly a horror movie, is still action-filled and action-based, where, not to say this movie's boring at all, but there's minimal action. It's more tense and thrilling than anything.
Yeah. And there's,
it's
like, for instance, the scene where he's in the barn, and that you see, like, the light moving, and you see the horse stuttering, like the famous scene that they show at the start of the film of the first ever film is being a horse running, and then the throwback to that of seeing a horse running past the slats as a ethereal light bathes them. It's very much a film for people who know what the phenomenon is. If you like, my partner isn't into UFOs, like it's not her thing.
Yeah.
So when she's watching it, there's a lot of these long conversations they have that for me it totally enthralls me.
Right, yeah.
Because it's like my absolute bread and butter. It's what I believe being put on the screen.
It was like listening to almost like this podcast, just people conversing like about their phenomenon and stuff, rather than just going like, why are they here? What do they mean? It's just like, no, we need to understand this thing before we like kill it. It's
and there are themes within the film that aren't UFO related. So for instance, Duke, the character who runs the theme park, a lot of his themes are about sort of self-acceptance of tragedy. So he was witness to like a terrible event while he was a child.
The constant throwback to Gordy, I think it is, isn't it?
Gordy, yeah.
Is you can't escape nature, which then links to the fact of the eye contact with the UFO, similar to the way with the horse, because well-trained animal can quickly go back to its original, natural self as it was in the jungle or wherever they're from. That's what I took from the constant Gordy conversation and stuff.
So I'll tell you what, we'll just come out now. It's not a UFO, is it, James? It is not a UFO.
No. It's there's a certain line in that movie which I think I said before the start where he goes, "I don't think it's a ship." Which I remember this shivers just when, like, that's one of those iconic lines, isn't it? And
because there is an abduction scene at Dupe's retreat.
The Jupiter's Claim?
Yeah, Jupiter's Claim. Yeah, there is an abduction scene at Jupiter's Claim. And when you think of the UFO abduction in real life, but you think of a big blue light that comes down, and you think of like a tractor beam from Star Wars slowly hovering people up.
Yeah.
But actually what the abduction is in this is it's the creature breathing in and
Yeah.
like swallowing people alive and digesting them. And the object that fell out and killed OJ's dad was like a set of keys or a coin
A nickel on it.
that, nickel that had been like launched out, like it was choking on it, so it spat it out.
Yeah.
And it was like, that is what the thing did. It swallowed up a load of hikers and ate them because it was on its patch. It was defending its territory. It was a territorial animal defending its territory. The hikers were in the area. It just ate them. Just like, see you later. Did the same thing at Dupe's retreat. He taunted it there. He got the horse and taunted the thing out, only for it to come across hundreds of people staring at it in awe, taking pictures, and it freaked the creature out, so it got rid of them. And that awful scene of them like slithering up the gullet of the beast.
It's graphic, isn't it? It's
very graphic.
It's beautifully done, like, because the slowly revealed to, like we said, the spoiler alert is the fact that it isn't a ship, like it's a creature.
It's a living being,
to look like, because it's the slow reveal of shots between clouds of things, the thing moving really fast, and it's the iconic shape that we always talk about as well. You know,
cigar shape.
The cigar shape, it tilts a little bit before it flies. That very little integral details that made me very excited. You know, and I'm not, said like quite novice about this, so it was very, very interesting that way. And then the big, like say, when it starts sucking people up, you go, oh, okay, this is
and the bit that
take on it.
The bit that my missus laughed at, and I loved it, I thought it was absolutely stunning watching it, was when the creature opened itself up and it and it looked like, if you see abyssal vampire squids, if you see those like the Dumbo squids and the frilled octopuses from the abyss, it was this real like abyssal creature. Because a lot of people say that they're like, an octopus isn't from Earth. Like, they see these creatures and they're like, those things don't look like anything else that we've ever seen.
No.
And so this big reveal of it being this giant enveloping creature with tendrils, I thought it was absolutely stunning. My missus looked up and saw what she described as, and I have the quote here, a set of curtains with a mouth. And she absolutely lost it. And I had to pause the film as she cry laughed for about 10 minutes.
I mean, fair point. But it's the reveal of it, isn't it? I think that's what made me like awe about it.
Within about 3 minutes, it went from being a UFO to being an animal. Literally within 2 or 3 minutes, it went from being a UFO film to a monster film.
Yeah.
And it was a very jarring change. And I said before we hit record that this is like the closest thing for me to describe what the phenomena is, because I don't think that they are giant sea creatures that fly around. I don't think that. But I do think that whatever we have witnessed in the air has some level of sentience to it. So David Fravor, for instance, we spoke about him. He was the pilot that chased the Tic Tac off the Nimitz. He said that the craft that he encountered, for instance, it had a level of sentience to it. Like, it was reacting to his movements.
Yeah.
But the way that it moved and the speed that it moved, you would think really that anything in there, it would be hard to survive that. And if it is using like gravitational wells, then that has a sort of, that impacts time, because time and space are connected, but they're relative. So personally, I'm of the opinion that the things that we see in the sky are potentially life forms, maybe an advanced AI life form. Like, I know AI is in vogue at the moment, but like an artificially intelligent or a sentient intelligent object that we can't measure. It might not have consciousness, but it might have some level of intelligence or
it's never revealed in the movie
life.
If it's like, if it's organic metal, if it's it's, you don't know if it's like pure organism, it's an animal because of the way it acts and the way it's portrayed.
And reacts,
you don't know what it's made of, because like you said, it starts off, you thinking it's just a regular UFO that you see in every movie. They even take the piss out of those movies with the barn scene with the kids in the
Yeah, they do.
You know,
Yeah,
they think it's
the
going to be a
jump
class.
scare of them wearing
Yeah,
the
it's a
alien
classic.
masks.
Yeah, and the fact he just walks in and goes, "Nope." No, I
Yeah,
love that. That's his because he's
yeah,
the main character is very
yeah. He's very like there is a level of just I ain't got time for this.
yeah. Ain't nobody
I do
got time
not
for that.
have.
Yeah,
I don't have the energy to deal with this right now. I don't want to be
yeah.
abducted by aliens.
It's just that
Um,
nope. It's just because it's
and
so what most people would do. Just be like,
yeah,
oh,
they'd be like,
I'm out here.
absolutely no chance, not having
Not.
this.
No, I love that.
But one of like key things for me that the film brought up is what everyone wants that picture to prove it.
Mhm.
And if it was me, obviously the first thing you do is you get your phone out and take a picture of it. But it just does. The typical trope is, oh, my battery's gone on my phone. Or the typical trope when you think of like the Chuck Clark video is, oh, the battery's running out on my camcorder.
Yeah,
But the way that they flip that on its head in this, that whatever it is can disable car batteries
yeah,
and it can affect the electromagnetic field around it. And that could explain why, oh, my battery's going, is because they have some sort of interference
yeah.
with the electromagnetic field in the
Some like
area.
temporary EMP that
Yeah.
emits from itself as it's flying, and yeah,
And so
that's why they
people
get the analog cameras, isn't it? Like,
And people say all the time, like, oh, well, we've got so many digital cameras now, why can't you take a picture of it? But there could be an element where you physically can't take a picture of it. And they take all these tropes from real life where people say, well, why don't we see them all the time? Well, because they camouflage themselves. Well,
yeah,
why don't you take a picture of it? Well, because we physically can't. Well, why don't you get a video of it? It disables the cameras. We can't. Well, are there little green men in them? Well, no, there's not. No.
no,
Well, where are they
it,
from? Not a clue.
yeah.
Why are
don't,
they here?
also, they don't care. They're shutting
Yeah.
mouth. Like it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just like we said. It's this whole this podcast is talking maybe find more evidence to try to support either or not, and that's all they're doing. It's
Yeah.
just evidence finding. I love it. I mean, yeah, it was.
But there are some genuine like horror moments in the film.
Oh God, yeah. The first scene when it's all sound,
Yes.
with the sound, and the bit where it bleeds on the house.
That
I
is
just saw that as
horrendous.
He's just like taunting them.
Yeah.
That's what I took from that scene was he's just like pissing on them.
Absolutely
He's just
horrendous.
like,
Yeah. Marking his
Yeah.
territory. Like, this is
yeah,
mine.
yeah.
Get out.
Yeah.
This is mine.
You hear all those
And
people screaming, "This is their blood." See that?
And the
Like,
slow crawl of the car the van running out of battery and the sound crackling and going. And
yeah,
you hear about it all the time in abductions. Betty and Barney Hill is a case that we will talk about at some point. I've got a lot of research to do on that because it's a mad one. But when there was even someone in Wales who claims that a UFO went above his car, and the first thing they say is the batteries die in their car. They can't move their car. The battery immediately stops and goes, and then they encounter a light of some description. And it does this brilliant thing of taking those tropes of real life cases, but without sort of shoving them in your face, without being
not
hey,
making a
look,
satire. Yeah,
fan service, reference. Like, it's not Star Wars itself, because don't get me started on the new Star Wars stuff, but it's very much like,
it's a lovely.
this is a thing.
Sorry. I don't know if it's called Flanderizing from
Yes,
literally
Flanderization.
Flanders.
Yeah.
From Flanders from The Simpsons is
Yeah.
getting the one big thing of a character or a situation and overselling it, over-flaunting it,
Over Flanderizing it. Yeah.
over-flander, yeah.
So it very much shows you the things that you expect to see when you think of a UFO, but gives very reasonable sort of descriptions for why that might be the case. Why can't you just drive away from the thing? Well, it disables your battery.
Yeah.
Well, why can't you just run away from the thing? Because it will just take you. It will just
it's faster,
take
it's
you
smarter.
immediately. Yeah. Well, why can't we see it? Hides. You can't. Doesn't want to be seen. Doesn't like it. I adored the film.
I mean, how many things do we miss on a daily basis because we're not paying attention? Sorry,
yeah,
like,
I think as well, I know I got a bit sciencey last time, but you lose so much time from your eyes moving. So I don't know if you know how vision works, but if you look from one place to another, if you didn't have part of your brain to cancel that movement out, you would just get motion sick all the time. Because if you look from your direct left to your direct right, the speed that your eye travels, it's insane. So your brain constantly is cutting out those little bits between you moving your eyes, and you lose hours in the day. And your brain just makes up like, oh, I think that's what you should see. Yeah. It just makes it up.
That's why memory's flawed, isn't it?
Yeah. So how many things do people just miss on a daily basis? Yeah. It could be there now, and you just wouldn't see it unless it wants you to see it.
And if they're traveling as fast as they say they do, like
thousands of miles an hour.
Yeah, your normal eyes aren't going to pick up that level of speed. Like, no way.
No, so, the crafts that were seen over the Ukraine were above hypersonic. They were like Mach 20 or Mach 30. You wouldn't see it even if it was there. Right. You know, I don't think that, like I said, I don't think UAPs are giant squid monsters that want to gobble us all up. But I do think that there is a level of sentience to them. And if they are as advanced as we think they could be, we're just dumb monkeys to that. We are the Gordy. We are the Gordy. We are the monkey that's being watched by them. Yeah. And they probably don't want us to try and rip their faces off. So they just
think, watching us, they are going to study and realize and keep, if they want to be secret, they're going to find a way to do that. So they'll scout us fast, come up with a solution, and do that. It's reconnaissance.
One of the key things that is brought up quite a lot in this film is animal abduction. Yeah. So the horses are taken all the time, and it's because the horses look at the creature and it eats them. But there is a mystery in real life behind animal abductions. I was telling you just the other day, wasn't I, James, that there is a spate of animal mutilations currently happening in America, and animal mutilations have been happening for decades. Do you know how many people have been arrested for the tens of thousands of animals that have been mutilated over the past 60 years in the US? Do you know how many people have been arrested, found evidence of a person doing this? You know the number?
I'm going to say 0.
Yeah, it's 0. No one has ever been convicted of animal mutilation before, and there is a current spate across the US, and it was in mainstream media, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but it was in the mainstream news a few weeks ago that cows and cattle are having their eyes and their tongues and their genitalia removed with precision of surgical removal. So it's not like, so one of the things that people always go to is, well, it could be coyotes. They go for the eyes and the tongue and the genitals because they're there and they're fleshy and they can easily get to them.
That's coyotes go to medical school as well, so that's a huge theory.
But I don't know if you know much about coyotes, but they don't have opposable thumbs and they can't use scalpels.
No, great exams though. So,
they do the written and oral stuff really well, but it's the practical stuff they fall down on. Yeah, but
everyone
that's going on TikTok, isn't it? But when you look at an animal that's been, because I'm from the countryside, I lived on farms for a long time. I've seen chickens, for instance, that have had their heads cut off, annihilated by foxes, and it's not surgical. It's anything but surgical. It is horrendous. It's brutal. There's blood everywhere. There is cartilage and bone strewn. There's flesh, lumps of it everywhere. These cattle that are being mutilated in America right now are having areas of their body removed, and when they look at the wounds, they are surgical precision and cauterized. I don't know an animal that can do that personally. Yeah. And so it comes back to Nope, where animal abduction is a big part of the film. It's a huge part of the film. Yeah. Not to the extent of them having like bits removed and stuff, but there is this real life trope of cattle mutilations and crop circles, and it's like, no, that happens, and no one can explain why it happens, how it happens, and who's doing it. Like crop circles, I don't believe in, because you can go out with some sticks and barrels and you can do some crop circles tonight. But I couldn't go out and kill a cow in such a way that there's no blood present at the scene, and then remove all the blood from the animal, and then remove the genitals and remove the eyes and remove the tongue, and then lay the animal down and then get away, and then not be any disturbance in the scenery at all. That's weird.
That's weird. Like even with,
and how about you?
If there's some crazy ass surgeon on the loose that just loves animal genitalia, like there'll be
that one surgeon has been doing it for 60 years all across America, and he's never been caught.
He's also
done it to thousands. He's done it to thousands of animals. But
And it's all this. Sorry, it's all the same sort of stuff. The eyes, it's all pretty clinical across the board.
like with Bob Lazar, gravitational waves and the way these craft move and they tilt, they move, there is a shared descriptor between them. Exactly the same with these animal mutilations. There is a shared descriptor between them. And Nope plays really well on that it gets all those small details right.
Yeah.
The way the craft moves, what it's after, how it hides, like it gets the 5 observables into the film.
Yeah.
And I've never watched a film where those 5 observables are all present and so well respected.
Definitely.
And I think that moves on quite nicely to the next little chat, because I'll tell you what, I'll open it up to you first. Before I contacted you and I was like, hey James, do you want to talk about UFOs?
Yeah.
What was your thoughts on maybe how it came across, or what it was in the media, like the History Channel and Ancient Aliens, that sort of stuff? Like, what was your view of what the UFO stuff was all about? I know that's quite an open question, but
I think I said on the first episode, it was very much like I think the universe is way too big for it not to be extraterrestrial life. I never saw it as world threatening, or like there's a lot of films portray. I never saw it as UFOs are here to scare us. It's not too similar to us observing the ocean. It could. But
every time you would see a UFO story in the news, how was it sort of like presented to you as a piece of content?
It was always sort of jokey. I think it was almost satirical. It was this crazy guy in, Alabama saw this, UFO, abducted him and his wife, and now they come back. Like, it was never from the point of science. It was almost gossip, I think, is the way I always saw it. It was always, there's a crazy old lady who talks about UFOs. It was never from a point of, seriousness.
Here's a Top Gun pilot who has decades of experience, who is a trained observer, and here's what he witnessed. It was very much, here's what Billy Bob saw in his trailer.
I never knew about, the Nimitz or Fravor or any Bob Lazar, and those sort of things don't appear in generic media per se.
The mainstream.
Thinking.
I hate the term mainstream media because it's been taken over by, I don't want to get political on this podcast, but it's been taken over by a certain sect of people with a certain branch of political leaning where they just scream MSN mainstream media. But the mainstream media never took this subject seriously when I was a kid.
No, I never actively followed it. I never disputed it. I always thought it is what it is, pretty much.
But you'd see it on the TV and it was like, oh, there's the X-Files music.
Like you said, it was parodying itself, just probably to calm the masses down. That's the way it was always portrayed to me. Was always, seeing old people, seeing frisbees again.
So it's interesting that because we're obviously of the same generation, so we grew up seeing the same things. X-Files was about, I was a bit too young to watch X-Files, but X-Files was about, and Men in Black was about, and Independence Day came out, and it was all very over the top and comic. That's how I would describe 90s UFO media, was a comedy as such. But it's interesting because it didn't start like that. So I've done a little bit of research over the last sort of week or so into the sort of media portrayal of UFOs. And really it all does start with Roswell. I know that is a bit cliche as such. And I purposely don't ever want to do a Roswell episode, by the way, because everyone has done a Roswell episode and we are not adding anything to that discussion. So,
apart from the fact that I was there.
Yeah, unless you've got the picture of the alien.
I'm actually not even cool.
Yeah,
Man's
fake reveal. But in the 40s, it was a big deal because the US had just come out of World War II. And I don't know if you know this. Do you know the term Foo Fighter? Not the Dave Grohl band. So
I know Foo Fighters, yeah.
So the term Foo Fighters was in World War II, and both sides, Axis and Allies, both saw craft in the air all the time, constantly. and they didn't know what it was. And the Germans thought it was Allies, and the Allies thought it was the Axis. And they came up with, like FUBAR, they came up with the term Foo Fighter. It was a FUBAR fighter. So it was taken seriously. And then after World War II finished, and a lot of German scientists came to the US, and they said, these craft that you had, we saw them flying in formation at like 60,000 feet, and we saw them going insane distances, and they would just like hover on our radar. How did you make those things? And the German scientists would say, we didn't make those things. You made those things, right?
Yeah.
No. And the Germans were like, well, here's a load of plans that we have trying to make those things, but we never made those things. You made those things. And it was at that point that they realized that it was nobody.
Yeah, right.
And again, we've spoken about this. Active war zones are hotbeds for UAP phenomena. That's why Ukraine is currently seeing a spate of UFOs and UAPs. So in the 40s, they were taken quite seriously. And the Roswell incident happens, and that changed things, because that was the first time people thought, well, the government aren't telling us everything here. Something's not right there. You've seen the famous newspaper article, right? You've seen the front page of the newspaper that says UFO has crashed in Roswell. That was a front.
I haven't seen that.
Have you not? That was Google it now. Front page Roswell. It was front page news on every national newspaper in the United States. And the next day, the US government said, no, it's not a UFO. No, it was a weather balloon. And the newspaper articles talk about beings in the craft, metallic objects found, huge military presence, and then the next day,
nothing.
None of that information is being told again, and information was suppressed immediately. Boom. No one within the military spoke about Roswell afterwards. It was done.
Sorry, I'm looking at all the front page, and I forgot there was a whole TV show called Roswell. Sorry,
oh yeah, no, there wasn't there, but there were national front page newspapers. Crashed disc in Nevada desert. It was the start of, these guys aren't telling us everything. So that was where it began. And then during the 50s and 60s, it dominated news, but not to a satirical level that it got to in like the 80s and 90s.
You can just tell by, like say, just the first few you can see, it definitely came from a point of seriousness.
Yeah.
Like, the world needs to know this.
And there was also, there's a very famous case called the Battle for Los Angeles, and that was of a craft that was shot down above LA. This craft appeared, spotlights lit the thing up in the air, and the military spent hours shooting this thing. And I mean, unloading artillery over Los Angeles. Again, if you've not seen it, give it a quick Google, because it will sort of blow your mind that this was a thing that just happened. This is the sort of start of people not trusting what the government is saying.
Yeah.
And then in the 50s and 60s, there was a rash of UFO sightings. It was every day another newspaper or another regional news TV show, news crew were reporting on a UFO or a craft of some description, or a being, or someone was abducted, or there's a Mothman in New York. And it was like fever pitch overload, but it wasn't like people making fun of it. It was very much like, we've seen this stuff, what the hell's going on? And
we need information.
It got to a point, and you think of 50s TV, stuff like Twilight Zone came out in the 50s and 60s, and it sort of captured people's imaginations just at the right moment. And then Project Blue Book was launched, and that investigated UFOs from like 1952 to 1969, and it basically was aimed at just debunking everything. UFOs don't exist. They aren't real. Go and see that woman who said that she saw a UFO, tell her it's swamp gas. That person, in those 25 people in New York that saw an object, tell them it was a blimp. Yeah. And Dr. J. Allen Hynek was the leader of Project Blue Book, and he came out afterwards and said that he had done so much damage to ufology because he was told, debunk everything and explain them as misidentifications or natural phenomena. And that's where the whole swamp gas comes from.
Right.
Don't believe anything you saw was real. There is a natural way to describe everything. And there's pictures in the 60s of like UFO craft, like cylindrical crafts, above buildings, and the official reasoning given for them is it's a reflection of the moon. What are you talking about? And so there was a very concerted government effort to have UFOs ridiculed. And that's exactly what happened. And all through the 70s and the 80s and the early 90s, everything that you saw about UFOs was Billy Bob in his trailer. It was crazy man saw something at night. It was stupid TV shows. It was silly music being shown. It was just everything you see is comedy. This isn't real. It's all ridiculous. And anyone who's seen this stuff, they're drunk or they're hysterical or they're suffering from psychosis. None of it's real. It's all sensationalized. We'll shove all the UFO news. It all goes into the tabloid media. It doesn't go on mainstream media. And that's still that still persists today.
Yeah.
Still to this day, the only times you'll see real UFO reporting done is in things like The Sun or the Daily Mail or the Express. And those are newspapers that are just trash, just
they don't
garbage.
Men in Black, don't they? He literally picks up one of those gossip magazines and he's like, this is the best way to find it. Like
the New York Post.
Yeah.
And it's all tabloid media and fodder, and it's all over-sensationalized. And I've been looking into a lot of stuff recently from the early 90s.
Yeah.
All of the sources that I'm finding are completely over-journalized. They're flanderizing these stories.
Yeah.
Where it will be a guy in South Wales who is suffering from an acute illness because he came into contact with the UAP, and the entire thing's just made over a joke. This crazy man thinks he's sick because an alien touched him, and it's very much...
To be fair to that journalist, though, there are a lot of swamps in Wales.
But that's what it became. And we were talking about it earlier. You and me both grew up in an environment where UFOs were mocked. You believe in UFOs? Oh my God.
Yeah.
You believe in aliens?
You go back to Randy Quaid, obviously our national
hero.
Even when aliens are revealed in that movie, he's still ridiculed.
Still the nutter.
Still the nutter. And there's giant spaceships everywhere.
Even when it's proved, yes, Randy Quaid, you were abducted by aliens. They are real. And what happens in that film is that the government were hiding it the entire time.
Yeah.
And they said, look at the crazy man, look at the drunk crazy man.
Yeah, but look at Bob Lazar over here.
He saw a little green man. He's a maniac, and you should never believe him. Also, if you want to laugh, the original scene where he flies up into the craft and blows it up, there is a deleted scene where he does that in his crop duster, and it's hilarious.
I'd much want to see that.
No, it looks ridiculous because he's flying alongside like F-16 fighter jets doing like 600 miles an hour in his little crop duster with his little leather hat on. It's ridiculous. That's a nice little caveat. But things sort of started to change a little bit because there were a few serious films. There was Close Encounters. Then the X-Files was just this monolith of a thing where actually not all the X-Files was about UFOs and stuff. It's ironic.
Paranormal, isn't it?
Yeah, it was one of the very few things they didn't really talk about that much was UFOs, but instantly it was associated with it, and it was a very serious show.
It's a good show.
But then we'll go back to Nope, because there was a point a few years ago, something changed. And what was that thing, James?
The declassification of their government videos regarding
Navy
UAPs,
videos.
UFOs. Yeah.
And that wasn't a sensationalized tabloid piece.
No.
That was the New York Times front page. The New York Times ran a story. The government is lying to you. They are not telling the truth. These are videos of craft, and we don't know what they are. Here is a pilot who interacted and chased a craft. And just in that short time, we've had a full 60 minutes episode on David Fravor and on these vehicles and on these craft. I know he gets a lot of flack. Joe Rogan has done a lot for the UAP scene over the last few years. Personally, I can't stand the bloke, but he has done an awful lot in regards of normalizing and rationalizing something that has always been seen as irrational. Always.
Yeah.
The phrase I'll always go back to is when I used to tell people, even a few years ago, I believe in UFOs. You believe in aliens? And I'd be like, well, no, I don't believe in aliens because I don't think there's little green men in this craft. And I think that the craft themselves are more interdimensional, or they're maybe already here and they're sort of like transmediums, and they're probably actually in the oceans. Like, people would look at me like I just told them that I'd like slapped an orphan. Like, what are you talking about? What?
Deservedly so.
But now I'm finding that when I talk to people about UFOs and aliens, well, not aliens, but when I talk to people about the UAP phenomena, there is a sort of bit more level of acceptance. And I find it weird that we live in a time where the government has said, oh, aliens, yeah, they're real. And everyone's gone, oh, okay. People keep saying, when's disclosure going to happen? It's happened. Happened a few years ago, guys. They literally told us they have craft not from this planet. They said we have other world craft not made on Earth. And people went, okay, cool.
Yeah, Taco Bell's opened.
Great.
Yeah, like
the world's ending, and we're dealing with COVID, and the world's ending, and there's war.
That is the perfect time to release something as big as that, is when the whole world's under lockdown.
And people are just like, I don't have the energy to deal with this right now. Sorry.
Just apathy. Or maybe they released COVID in time.
Now you're really going down the rabbit hole.
Now I'm going down the rabbit hole here.
Yeah. There's definitely been a shift change between people wanting to watch grainy videos on the History Channel, or pyramids were made by aliens, or I was abducted and I married a Martian. Like, though we don't see those things really anymore. We do to a certain extent, because TV has to be entertaining, and they have to make those shows because they get okay ratings, and you can sit down and watch them and have a bit of a laugh with it.
Plus, like we discussed in the last episode, if you believe in it, you believe in it.
Yeah, power to you.
No one's going to persuade you otherwise.
If you think that aliens built the pyramids, that's cool. Show me why, because I'm sure it's interesting.
Yeah, and also, I don't get how intelligence and time are linear. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't get how that makes sense to me. Like,
there has been, over the last few years, a definite change in the way that the media is portrayed. And I agree with you that Nope feels like a turning point.
It's also, I don't think, if it wasn't for like the declassification and, like you said, the change in opinions and temperament in regards to the acceptance of it, Nope wouldn't be made.
No, not at all.
Like, it's great that Jordan Peele have the two movies which are fantastic, equally previous, but the subject matter, the story, I just don't think people would have accepted it as an alien, alien movie.
No, because
the change.
I've always believed in UFOs, and I have always dealt with like I said earlier, you believe in UFOs? What the hell are you talking about? But I can guarantee you that people went out of that film, Nope, who maybe don't research or don't look into the stuff as much as I do, which is almost everyone on Earth, I think. But there will be people that watched that film and thought, hang on, what? You said UAP. What the hell is a UAP? What's he talking about? And they will have gone home, and they will have gone on the internet, and they will have typed in UAP, and then they'll be hit with videos from the Navy.
Did you mean OAP?
Just a flying granny. Just a little old lady. That's what the scream was. It was her. Just like, what a bourbon. Woo.
You say bourbons are great.
Yeah. Oh, where's my pen, Ginger?
I'm missing tipping point.
Bargain hunter. And there will be people that watch that film who will have gone home, and they might have even been in the cinema, and they'll be like, what's a UAP? And then they will be hit by not Billy Bob in his trailer got abducted and he had a probe stuck up his bum, but they'll actually be finding lots of people asking for science on this stuff. The director of NASA has come out and said, we have seen things on our satellites that we can't explain. And there's NASA are doing a press conference, I think this week, on UAPs. And it's going to be a bit of a nothing burger. It's probably going to be sort of like, oh, we've seen a few things. But NASA's director openly says, we don't know what these things are. Like, we have observed them for literally decades, and now we need to get scientific evidence on what these things are. We need to study this because it's something that, and here's the key thing, is a national security threat.
There you go, Space Force.
That's the bit, because now they've got Space Force, and now they've got the military involved. They can say, well, there's a military threat, so we need,
of course.
we can't, these things lock our radar and they jam our weapon systems. We don't know what they are, so we should look into these. And also, they someone. Here's what's mad: a Navy officer on CNN a few years ago, Sean Cahill, who was witness to the Nimitz event, and he said these objects outstrip the US government's military by up to 1,000 years. He said that on CNN, and the host of CNN went, "Oh, that's interesting." So that would be like going back to 1000 AD, where they're swinging swords about and they haven't invented the crossbow, and they're chucking rocks at each other and they're slinging, stones out of catapults, and then showing up with tanks and fight jets, intercontinental ballistic missiles, and nuclear weapons, and hypersonic velocity missiles, and the Eurofighter, and turning up, and then the local is being like, "Oh, should we poke at them with our pointed sticks?" That's the difference. Like, that is the difference that we're seeing in terms of what is in front of us. And over the last few years, that conversation has changed from they're a threat to hillbillies walking home drunk to this could be an existential threat to all of humanity.
Yeah. And it's also the same reaction from the reporter. Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah, comma. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, really? Oh, it's a threat to humanity.
It's a scene from Don't Look Up, isn't it?
When DiCaprio wails at the presenters. But yeah, there is a shift change within the media. It's not all the way there, because they will wheel out the nutcase every now and again to talk about crop circles, but it's getting there. Yeah. And it's why I love doing this show, because you told me the other day that you were researching Havana syndrome, and it's like, that's what we need people to do. Yeah. I don't want to see, I know I'm going to probably sound stupid when I say this, I don't want to see any more UFO videos or pictures of, "Ooh, look at this. Ooh, look at this spaceship I saw."
Yeah.
I don't want to see that.
I saw 3 objects moving in the sky. Oh, they were flapping with wings.
Yeah.
Birds, mate.
Look at this giant cratery light that I can see in the sky every night. It goes in the day, but it's always there. Like, I don't want to see those videos anymore.
I think it's the back of the sun.
Yeah, it could be. What I want to see is data and evidence and like the scientific method showing what these things are.
Yeah.
Sean Cahill saying these things outstrip our entire military. Why? We see these things traveling thousands of miles an hour. Why? How? How does it do that?
Yeah.
We see these things vanish off of radar. How? How does it do that? Yeah. And I think that those questions will be answered, but it's very early days. I think we're back at the 40s at the moment with the media portrayal.
I get what you mean. Yeah.
And unfortunately, I feel like we're there with the government as well.
Yeah. But do you think it's going to be cyclical, as in eventually it'll go back round to being farcical, then go back down?
I think it will. I genuinely think that if the momentum that the scene has at the moment, that the UAP community has, if that momentum doesn't stick and that the oddballs get plucked out, so like Stephen Greer had a press conference to say, all of these people sat beside me today are high-ranking officials in the military. We're here today to do a 3-hour presentation to tell you that UFOs are real and that we've been encountering them for years and that we know what these things are. And Stephen Greer has gone from that to now you can sit in the desert, you can pay him $5,000 to sit in the desert and meditate and see orbs. Like, that's what he's turned into. And I think that if the momentum that it has at the moment sticks and people ask the right questions, that something will come of it.
Yeah.
But I think that what the government could very, very easily do is say, that nutter in the desert, interview him for telly. Get him on the TV. Get him on the TV now. That guy over there, the drunk guy who is off his face all the time. Go and ask him if he's ever seen an alien. That's the worry that I have, is that there's something that's been launched called the AROO, the Arrow office within the government, and it's there to investigate UFO sightings.
Right. Okay.
For me, it's a Project Blue Book all over again, and we're at a
Yeah.
very dangerous place where every single UFO sighting could be called a drone,
Oh yeah.
and every UFO sightee could just be called nonsense.
Fame hungry.
Yeah. Oh, they're just doing it for. So instead of it being
Internet
someone
clout,
wanting to
innit?
get on the local news and it's swamp gas, or it's a balloon, or it's a refraction of the sun, what we're now going to see is they want to be Instagram famous, they want to be TikTok famous, and it's just a drone and they did it themselves, or it's CGI. And I think we're at a very dangerous balancing point where both of those things are equally as likely to happen. We push hard enough and the truth comes out, or the government push harder and everything's a drone. And I think that's the danger. And funnily enough, Jeremy Corbell a few years ago released a video of someone taking a video through like a night vision goggle of a triangular object, a pyramid object flashing. It's a light of some description. And the way that the bokeh on the camera worked is it couldn't have been an artifact of the camera, creating it. So like if you zoom in on a star on your digital phone, you will notice that it goes octagonal, and it's because the lens on your phone is an octagonal lens, and when you zoom in on a point of light, it creates the shape of your phone lens. And lots of UFO pictures you see on Reddit are octagonal dots in the sky where someone zoomed in and they don't know what it is, but it's just an artifact of digital zoom on your camera making a point look like an octagon. And so what first came out is people said, well, it's just a plane in the sky, and the artifacting of the camera has made it into a triangle. So there we go, job done.
Easy.
Just that.
Yeah.
Well, they said the other day that it's not an artifact of the camera and it's not a drone. So we still have videos coming out and people don't know what they are.
Yeah.
And the government are like, we don't know what this thing is. And everyone's like, cool. Eurovision's on.
Yeah, look at it then, please.
Yeah.
You can't just say, I don't know what this is and walk away.
It's mad, but it's a good chat. I feel like I've cleared the air there.
Yeah, you've karate chopped the air. It was very, very good.
Karate chopped it.
Karate chopped the air as well, funny.
So yeah, the overriding themes from this is government bad, media bad, nobody's good. Aliens are going to kill us all. Thank you for joining me, James.
And also watch Nope.
Yeah.
It's nice to leave with the existential dread every time.
Yeah. Bit of a world-ending crisis. Why not?
You make a big dude feel tiny. It's very good.
Yeah, I like it. So next week, James.
Yeah.
I've told you we've got two. Tell you what, I'm going to do a virtual coin flip. So we've got two cases that I've researched over the last few days, and one of them is the what was it called? Oh, the
Savannah
aerial school sighting in Zimbabwe, where lots and lots of children all saw a shared experience. And then the other one is the Phoenix Lights. So I'm going to say Phoenix Lights is tails because children in Zimbabwe have heads.
Some will have tails, but yeah, at that point.
It's a very, very small percentage, but a few might. So heads or tails, James?
Oh, tails.
Okay, let's have a look. It's heads. So next week, we will be doing the aerial school sighting in Zimbabwe.
Great.
It's one of my favorites because it's a shared experience between about 60 or 70 witnesses, all saw the same thing. Documented. It's a very famous case, and I'm very excited to jump into it.
Great. Love it.
And then we'll do Phoenix Nights. We'll do Phoenix Lights another time.
Another review.
Yeah. We'll just review the old Peter Kay, Paddy McGuinness show. So I've had a nice time today, James. What about yourself?
Me too, buddy. Oh God, I love it every time.
Not so much existential dread, but you'll get it.
I didn't get scared so much this time. It was
I'll scare you next week. Don't worry.
Please did.
So next week, aerial school in Zimbabwe. If you have any other sort of sightings or cases you want me to do some research into, let me know. Anyone listening to this who wants me to babble on at James and terrify him about a specific case, let me know. Again, follow us on all the socials. We're on TikTok, Paranormality Podcast. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook. Easiest way to find us is our link tree, linktr.ee/Paranormality Podcast. And until next time, my name's been Harry.
I'm James.
And I forgot the tagline, so we'll just go from here again. It's something about the skies. I don't know. Whatever.
Open the skies and eyes are wide.
Like something like that.
Something like that.
Bye.
See ya.